Crystals, I created some creapypasta characters. This is my first time doing any creapypasta and my first time creating them. I think I did good on their designs, since I'm used to doing FNAF all the time. I think it's not too differ from creating creapypasta characters. I followed some images for help. Now let's get started.
First is hoodie. Here are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is masky. These are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is Jeff. Here are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is Ben. Here are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is Jack. Here are the images I use for help. Oh wait, I also use my Michael Afton design. Here he is with his mask on and off. Moving on. Here is Lulu. Here are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is Jane. Here are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is Sally. Here is the images I use for helpy. Moving on. Here is Helen. Here are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is Judge Angel. Here are the images I use for help. Moving on. Here is Slender Man. I didn't use any image for help. So moving on. Here is Puppeteer. Moving on. Here is Nina. Moving on. Here is Silver. Moving on. Here is Zero. Moving on. Here is Nursan. Moving on. Here is Liu. Moving on. Lastly, Clockwork. I am aware that Hoodie Me Mascara from Marvel Hornets. I might create Toby, too. And I am also aware that he is not a creepypasta anymore, but I still might create him.
That's all by Crystals.